This science fiction story begins in the 22nd century, where humans have made significant advancements in technology. A few decades ago, traveling to the moon took a lot of time, but now technology had advanced to such an extent that reaching another planet only took a few seconds. In fact, human civilization had invented a technology called the Hyperloop, where their spaceships would enter a strange type of black hole, create a path, and directly reach the targeted location. This innovation saved them a lot of time. Since this technology was available to all of human civilization, different missions were being carried out, such as exploring other planets in different galaxies to check if life existed there. Despite technological advancements, Earth's condition had worsened due to pollution, and many private organizations were trying to shift human civilization to other habitable planets with environments similar to Earth. In the depths of space, a spaceship was seen, carrying astronauts on a mission to find a habitable planet. The captain of the spaceship, Adam, was speaking with an astronaut named Jerry, asking how long it would take to reach their destination, the planet Altair Fold. Jerry responded that using the Hyperloop, they could reach there in just a few hours. Their organization had discovered a planet called Altair 4, located 100 light-years away, which had an environment 80% similar to Earth, with an abundant supply of oxygen. However, a mission had been sent to Altair for a few years ago, but it failed, and the crew never returned. Therefore, a new mission was now being sent to rescue any survivors and gather more information about Altair 4 for the organization. After several hours, Captain Adam informed his team that they were about to reach Altair. He instructed everyone to get to work, and the crew members began focusing on their assigned tasks. Although Altair 4 was habitable, its orbit was highly unstable, and if the spaceship went even a little out of control, it would crash onto the planet. Captain Adam was also informing the crew that this mission wasn't just about researching the planet, but there was a chance that some survivors from the previous mission could still be alive on the planet. Therefore, they would also need to rescue them properly. Finally, their spaceship reached the orbit of Altair 4. The rest of the crew began conducting inspections on the surface of the planet. They also sent signals to the astronauts who were stranded on Altair 4 during the previous mission. Suddenly, one of the astronauts says that he has received an audio-recorded message from Altair 4. When Captain Adam and Jerry listened to this message, they realize that it's from an astronaut named Edward, who had arrived on the planet during the earlier mission. Captain Adam introduces himself, explaining that they come from the same organization as Edward's mission. In fact, they have come to rescue everyone stranded there. However, Edward responds by saying that although they have come to rescue them, they don't need rescuing. They have no intention of leaving the planet and ask them to turn their spaceship back toward Earth without doing anything. Edward also warns that if they enter the orbit of the planet, their lives could be in danger, and there's nothing he can do about it. Captain Adam, however, doesn't trust Edward's words at all. He asks Edward to just provide the coordinates so they can land. Edward, after some hesitation, provides the coordinates, and Captain Adam's entire team follows them to land on Altair 4. Once the spaceship doors open, everyone begins to slowly step out. They don't even need to wear spacesuits because the oxygen levels on this planet are exactly the same as on Earth. However, the ground was barren, and there was nothing visible around except for large, strong rocks. All the crew members begin researching the soil and various aspects of the planet. From the surface, the entire space looked grey in color. Suddenly, Captain Adam and the other astronauts saw something running towards them from a distance. Its speed was so fast that they were all stunned. Captain Adam quickly informed the rest of his crew to stay alert, as this could be a sign of possible danger. Since they were on an unknown planet, there could be all kinds of animals, and they had been provided with weapons for protection. After waiting for a while, the running figure finally reached them and stopped. To their surprise, it was not an animal, but rather an advanced robot that introduced itself as Robbie. Robbie told Adam and his team that he had come to take them to his creator, Edward, who wanted to speak with them. Captain Adam didn't find Robbie dangerous in any way, so he assigned one of his astronauts to take charge of the team in his absence. Adam, Jerry, and Astro followed Robbie, who had wheels on his feet and seats beside him. The three astronauts sat down, and Robbie moved forward with incredible speed, reaching Edward's home in no time. Upon landing, they met Edward, the same astronaut who had sent them the voice message with the coordinates earlier. When they entered Edward's house, they were amazed by what they saw. It was hard to believe that Edward had managed to create such a home on this barren planet. Although Edward wasn't exactly thrilled to see them, he still invited them inside for dinner. Captain Adam, Jerry, and Astro enjoyed the meal, savoring the delicious food. Jerry asked Edward how he managed to make such a delicious meal, and Edward explained that it wasn't him but Robbie who had prepared the food. He had made advanced modifications to Robbie, giving him the ability to create anything, and even multitask, handling many tasks at once. After dinner, Edward told Captain Adam that maybe it was time for them to leave, but Adam, Jerry, and Astro insisted that they wanted to talk to the rest of Edward's astronaut friends before leaving. Then Edward revealed a dark secret. He was the only surviving astronaut on the planet. Captain Adam, Jerry, and Astro were completely shocked by this revelation. Edward explained everything that had happened. He said that when their spaceship was landing on the planet, turbulence in the orbit caused the ship to crash. Tragically, all the other astronauts died in the accident, but Edward and his wife survived. The two of them slowly started to make their life on the planet and built this home. They even had a beautiful daughter named Alt. However, a few years ago, Edward's wife passed away naturally, and since then, Edward had been living alone on the planet with his daughter. After a short while, Edward called his daughter, Alt, to introduce her to the rest of the astronauts. Alt was incredibly beautiful, and the three astronauts were stunned by her appearance, especially Jerry and Astro, who couldn't stop admiring her. They were also confused about how a woman like Alt could survive alone on the planet without any male survivors. They felt that she surely needed a man for support, so Jerry and Astro went ahead and asked her if she would come back to Earth with them. Edward, however, left the decision entirely to his daughter. If Alt wanted to go, she could, but Alt rejected their invitation. She explained that she would never leave her father. Wherever her father stayed, she would stay, and she could not imagine leaving him. Jerry and Astro were utterly defeated as their attempts to win Alt's affection failed. Edward then asked Alt to introduce her friends to the others, and the three astronauts were curious about who these friends were. Alt went inside and whistled, and soon, a variety of animals appeared. It turned out that Edward had been taking care of the animals on the planet as well, ensuring that they didn't feel lonely or deprived. Alt had also formed strong bonds with these creatures. Finally, Edward insisted that Captain Adam, Jerry, and Astro leave. He told them that the decision was made, and both he and Alt were staying on the planet. He emphasized that there was no point in wasting time trying to change their minds. They had made their choice, and it was time for the visitors to leave. Captain Adam insisted that they couldn't make such a decision without consulting Earth's headquarters first, as they would need permission from there. In the meantime, he decided they would stay on the planet and continue their research. After discussing this, Captain Adam, Jerry, and Astro got into their vehicle and headed back to the base. Meanwhile, back at the spaceship, the rest of the crew members were busy constructing shelters for themselves, as everyone needed a safe place to stay. To everyone's surprise, Edward had sent Robbie to help with the work. Robbie was managing the tasks of 5 people on his own, which made Captain Adam happy, as it showed that Edward was trying to assist them in some way. However, Captain Adam soon noticed that Jerry was nowhere to be found. He decided to go search for him. It turned out that Jerry had gotten very close to Alt and was kissing her. Captain Adam arrived just in time to witness this, and he was furious. He reprimanded both Jerry and Alt, telling them that such actions were not acceptable. He ordered Jerry to return to the base and began explaining to Alt that she had to be careful. He reminded her that they were astronauts from Earth, and her body had adapted to the planet's conditions, which could lead to dangerous reactions. Despite Captain Adam's reprimanding, Alt was upset, though he had done it out of concern for her well-being. The scene then shifted to the base camp that the astronauts had set up, where everyone was resting. In the middle of the night, something invisible infiltrated the camp and started moving things around. By morning, Captain Adam realized that some of their devices weren't working. When he asked his crew members who was responsible for this, they had no answers. He was worried that this carelessness could disrupt their communication system, which was essential. What Captain Adam didn't realize was that the disturbances weren't caused by any of the crew members, but by some invisible force that seemingly didn't want them to communicate with Earth's organization. Realizing the potential danger, Captain Adam warned his crew to stay alert and cautious. The following day, after finishing his tasks, Captain Adam went to Edward's house to discuss the next steps. As Captain Adam and Astro were talking to Edward's office, they suddenly noticed Alt, who was bathing without clothes. Adam quickly told her to put on her clothes. When she did, she came out and approached him closely. Adam, unable to control himself, impulsively kissed Alt interestingly. While Captain Adam had stopped Jerry from getting involved with Alt, he was now doing the same thing. However, things took a turn when Alt's pet lion appeared, sensing Adam as a threat and starting to growl at him. Adam, in a reflex, quickly drew his advanced gun and shot the lion, killing it. This action deeply upset Alt, as the animals on the planet were her companions, and with the lion's death, she felt more alone. A few hours later, Captain Adam and Astro went to Edward's office to ask him some questions, but he wasn't there. While waiting, Captain Adam began going through the papers on Edward's desk. He discovered references to advanced technologies that didn't exist on Earth, and before they could investigate further, Edward returned. He knew that they were curious about his experiments, so he invited them to follow him. Edward then revealed that, over the years, he had conducted numerous experiments on this planet, particularly with some unique minerals that didn't exist on Earth. Using these, he had created Robbie, the advanced robot, and he continued experiments in search of immortality. Edward revealed that he had used these resources to try to live forever. He then showed them his greatest creation, an underground machine containing over 1,000 thermal reactors capable of generating massive amounts of electricity and power. Captain Adam and Astro were shocked by this technology, realizing that if such advancements were shared with Earth, it would push humanity's technological progress by centuries. Captain Adam, impressed by the potential, suggested to Edward that he should share this knowledge with Earth, as it could benefit all of humanity. Edward tells Captain Adam that perhaps Earth is not ready for such advanced technology yet, because if it were to fall into the wrong hands, it could cause chaos and unrest. Therefore, he decides not to share it with anyone until he has thoroughly researched and understood its full potential. Meanwhile, back at the spaceship, Jerry guides the crew members as they set up a force field around their base to detect any intruders. However, despite the force field, the invisible creature that had attacked them earlier attempts to infiltrate again. The force field prevents it from entering, but the creature exerts so much energy that it manages to capture and kill several astronauts before retreating. Captain Adam and Astro try to gather more information about the invisible creature, but unfortunately, they don't manage to learn anything substantial. The next day, the crew holds a memorial for their fallen comrades. During this time, Captain Adam notices that Edward has arrived with Robbie. Edward explains that the same invisible creature that attacked them had killed all of their original crew members years ago. He emphasizes the creature's greatest power, its invisibility, which makes it nearly impossible to detect or harm. Edward warns Captain Adam and his team to stay cautious and remain vigilant. Once again, Captain Adam and his crew attempt to track the invisible creature using their advanced equipment. They use movement sensors to detect its presence, and eventually, they start picking up signals indicating that the creature is near. However, the creature breaches the force field, capturing Jerry and several other astronauts and dragging them away. The remaining crew members are devastated, especially since Jerry had been their closest ally. Now, Captain Adam, feeling the loss of his friends, decides to visit Edward at his home to discuss the situation further. Captain Adam and his crew arrive at Edward's house, but they find that all the electricity is suddenly cut off. This raises their suspicions, and they start to enter the house, only for Robbie to block their way. Robbie tells them that he's been given instructions not to let anyone inside. However, at that moment, Alt appears and invites Captain Adam inside. Upon seeing her, Captain Adam is visibly pleased and embraces her. Alt warns Captain Adam that this planet is far more dangerous than he thinks, and that there are far more perilous things here. She urges him to take his crew and leave. Captain Adam, still hopeful, asks her to come with him, but Alt firmly refuses. She tells him that she cannot leave her father, Edward, and that wherever he stays, she will stay as well. Captain Adam, realizing that convincing Edward might be the key to convincing Alt, begins to consider the possibility of taking Edward back to Earth, hoping that this might change Alt's mind. Just then, Robbie brings Astro to them, who is barely alive. Robbie explains that Astro accidentally entered a machine created by Edward, a machine that converts imagined things into reality. Unfortunately, the machine malfunctioned, and Astro's experience with it resulted in his deteriorating condition. Edward then reveals a dark secret. Years ago, he tested the machine, creating an invisible and dangerous creature in his imagination. The machine made this creature real, and it is the same one that has been killing everyone on the planet. This revelation shocks Alt, as she realizes that the creature causing all this destruction was born from her father's own creations. Seeing the horror in Alt's eyes, she decides to leave with Captain Adam, understanding that the danger is too great. Edward, admitting his mistake, regrets that things went this far out of control. He also confesses that the real reason his original crew died wasn't due to the spaceship crash, as he had claimed, but because the invisible creature killed them all. Suddenly, Robbie informs them that something is approaching from the north side. As Edward, Captain Adam, and Alt look toward the south, they see the dangerous invisible creature tearing through large artificial forests, heading straight toward them. Before the creature can reach them, Edward locks all the doors, but it quickly becomes clear that these locks won't be enough to stop it for long. Edward orders Robbie to kill the creature, but Robbie, based on his programming, explains that he cannot harm the creature. The reason is that the invisible creature was created from Edward's subconscious mind. It is a part of him. Therefore, Robbie cannot bring himself to destroy it. He shuts himself down, leaving the others to face the threat. The creature continues its rampage, breaking through walls and causing destruction as it advances toward them. Edward, Captain Adam, and Alt hastily retreat into another compartment. Captain Adam manages to close the doors and locks them, but now he urgently demands to know how they can destroy the creature. However, Edward remains silent, seemingly resigned to what is happening. He feels that this situation is a form of cosmic justice, as he had specifically warned Adam and the others not to come to the planet, yet they did so anyway. Frustrated, Captain Adam and Edward begin to fight, with Captain Adam pushing Edward for answers. After a brutal struggle, Edward finally admits the truth. 20 years ago, when he first arrived with his crew on the planet, everything was normal. But when he created the invisible monster with his thoughts, he subconsciously commanded it to eliminate everyone who might try to leave the planet. In a way, Edward had orchestrated the deaths of his own crew members. Upon hearing this revelation, Alt is horrified and begins to hate her father for his actions. She immediately decides to leave with Captain Adam, no longer willing to stay with him. Meanwhile, the monstrous creature is still breaking through walls, and Captain Adam warns Edward that if he doesn't act quickly, his daughter will be killed too. And you must admit that all of this is happening because of you, so you have to find the solution as well. In fact, Edward knew very well that he had created that monster using his subconscious mind, and to destroy the monster, Edward would have to die. So, Edward sacrifices his life solely to save his daughter. Now, Edward is completely dead, and the creature becomes very weak. However, even though the invisible creature had become weak, it didn't die. As Edward takes his last breaths, he tells Adam to take his daughter with him and, as he leaves, click the button on the machine he created, which will destroy the entire planet. Adam quickly takes Alt and presses the button, and along with his crew members, they board the spaceship and head toward Earth. The planet is now completely destroyed, and no one will ever find it again. Inside the spaceship, we see Captain Adam and the rest of the crew members, along with Alt and Robbie. They decided to take Robbie with them to Earth, as his advanced technologies might help humanity progress further. With this hopeful vision, they start their journey toward Earth, and this science fiction story ends here.